Think you've already figured out Marvel Cosmic Invasion just because you cleared the first stages? Let me warn you, the game hides a ton of details that completely change the pace of the fight, and it doesn't bother explaining them to you at all. So today, I'm breaking down 10 advanced tips that the game does not teach you in Marvel Cosmic Invasion, things I wish I had known long before taking free hits and wasting time on fights I could have dominated. I'm Matthew, and the video starts now.
There's trouble downtown. Watch out, these bugs have been...
This tip about the assist without a full swap is one of those things that, once you build the muscle memory, completely changes the rhythm of the game. Holding L1, LB, and pressing an attack to call in your inactive hero sounds simple, but in practice, it becomes a third hand in your combo. You keep playing with whoever is on the field, while the other hero jumps in just to deal damage and leave. What I love most here is how this extends combos without forcing you to overcommit. In many brawlers, when you want to maintain real pressure, you end up burning big resources or putting yourself at risk trying to continue the sequence. Here, this quick assist gives you safe continuity because it maintains flow while saving your total focus for when you really need to turn a bad situation around. With Spider-Man, for example, landing webs with the right timing acts almost like a screen reset button. You trap a group, cut through the crowd control chaos for a few seconds, and gain that little bit of space to reposition, pick the most dangerous target, or even land a launcher without getting steamrolled. I feel like this transforms a chaotic brawl into a controlled one. With Cosmic Ghost Rider, his blast is perfect for maintaining screen presence when it looks like the enemy is about to escape your reach. It's the kind of assist I use not just for damage, but to keep the opponent respecting your pace. You're attacking, you call the blast, and the screen stays busy, the enemy gets stuck between taking the hit, defending, or losing ground. To me, the secret is thinking of this assist as pressure and control, not just extra hits. The more you use it to lock down movement, cover recovery, and keep the fight from cooling down, the more Marvel Cosmic Invasion becomes a game of constant dominance, with you dictating the combat speed instead of just reacting. 2 quick taps in a direction while running, plus attack, and there you go. You get a mobile strike that feels like an eraser wiping the mess off the screen. It's the kind of move that gives you a sense of control, especially when the game tries to surround you. What really gets me is the hitbox size. It's not just about hitting, it's about clearing a path. When enemies come in formation, or during those moments where the screen turns into a corridor of punches and projectiles, this attack is my not today move. You dash through, scatter the crowd, and shift the axis of the fight from them pressing me to me owning the space. And there's a detail many people underestimate. It's great for getting out of a corner without looking like you're running away. Sometimes you get trapped between a wall and a big enemy, taking poke and chip damage, and any attempt to jump or roll results in a punish. The dash attack becomes an aggressive exit, and that's valuable because you reposition without losing the initiative. Against ranged attacks, it becomes an interruption tool. You know when you're doing well, but then someone starts zoning you and the screen becomes a festival of flying objects? You dash, get within range before the next shot, and break the enemy's rhythm. I use it a lot as a line breaker, I don't let the guy set up his game, and against bosses like Taskmaster, this mobility with presence makes an absurd difference. He likes to test you with space, timing, and those small openings. If you just walk and hit, you're an easy target. With the dash attack, you close the distance in the safest way possible, interrupt attempts to keep you away, and still create windows to keep the pressure on. It's the kind of move that, when it lands, makes it feel like the boss is the one who has to adjust to you. Breaking the overshield first is one of those things that seems obvious once you learn it. But before that, you waste a lot of resources without realizing it. That yellow bar is practically screaming at you. If you use your best stuff now, it's going to yield less. So, I started viewing this initial boss phase as a separate stage of the fight, almost like a mandatory warm-up. My mental adjustment was simple. As long as the yellow bar is up, I play in efficiency mode. Basic attacks, safe strings, and constant pressure without trying to show off by burning an ultimate early. It's even satisfying because you feel like you're sawing away at the boss's defense, bit by bit, while simultaneously observing patterns, distance, and which of their attacks has a more punishable recovery. The big catch is that this also improves your focus management. Instead of burning through focus skills and running dry right when the boss opens a real window, you save the resource for when the actual health is exposed. And when the overshield drops, that's when the game shifts gears. You go into burst mode, because every hit starts counting for much more. The dual ultimate, in this context, becomes a phase finisher rather than a way to clear the path. I like to set up this moment like a checkmate. Overshield almost gone, I position myself, confirm with a safe hit, and then let the big combo rip. When it works, it's that moment where the boss's health bar just disappears, and you feel like you planned the fight instead of just surviving it. Against Venom, this is even clearer, because he has timings and recoveries that seem designed to make you miss out of anxiety. If you try to blow him up with an ultimate while the yellow bar is still there, you just make a lot of noise and risk being exposed when he fires back. Now, when you study the recoveries, like after certain lunges or longer attacks, and hold the burst for that instant, you truly punish him and turn the fight into something much more controlled. The infinite juggle with Beta Ray Bill is what I call a shameless shortcut, and I say that with love, because when you discover it, you get that there's no way they let this slide laugh. In specific waves, like the robotic bees in NY, the game practically hands you a perfect punching bag to farm XP without any mental effort. The trick is that the setup is ridiculously simple. You use the first basic hit to launch, push them toward the corner, wall, and let the game's physics do half the work. When the enemy sticks to the wall the right way, the juggle becomes a stable loop, and then you just maintain the rhythm. The feeling is almost hypnotic because the hit counter starts climbing and you realize you've moved past the cool combo point and entered tamed bug territory. When you cross the 2000 hit mark, that's when you feel the absurdity of it. The XP comes in an avalanche and your level skyrockets. Jumping straight to level 10 inches minutes completely changes the game's curve because you unlock more tools, get stronger earlier, and turn the first stages into a cakewalk. It's the kind of farm that, if you have little time to play, solves your life. Now, I also like to think about when to use this, because depending on your mood, it can ruin the fun a bit. If you're in the vibe of learning patterns, struggling a bit, and feeling the natural progression, this method steamrolls everything. But if you want to test builds, see synergies, or just get quickly to the point where the game gets more interesting, then it becomes a great tool. Repeating early stages for massive XP works precisely because it's consistent. You minimize risk, maximize return, and manage to set up your character for the rest of the run. I usually use this as a personal difficulty adjustment button, like, okay, now I want to play with the full kit, and then I go back to the normal flow, because the best part of Marvel Cosmic Invasion is when the fight goes back to being about screen control and decision making, not just numbers going up. Studying the move list might seem like something only methodical people do, but for me, it's where the real game begins. In the heat of battle, you can get by on instinct, but the menu usually hides those properties that completely change what you think a character can do. And when you discover a hidden mechanic, it feels like you've unlocked a new button on the controller. The example of holding attack during a dodge to perform a parry counter, like with She-Hulk, is exactly that. It's not just defense, it's defense that turns into offense. Instead of rolling away and resetting to neutral, you transform a dangerous situation into an immediate advantage. I like it because it changes your mental stance. You stop trying to survive and start inviting the enemy to make a mistake. Another thing I always look for, there are ability cancels within combos, because that's the kind of detail that makes your gameplay cleaner and more aggressive. Some characters seem slow until you understand where you can cancel animations, cut recovery, and keep the pressure on without giving the enemy room to breathe. Then you realize that the combo that seemed short actually had hidden extensions, and the difference between getting beaten and dominating is just timing. Iframes on charged attacks also change everything, especially on a crowded screen. Sometimes you think a charged attack is just more damage if I have time, but it can be a tool to phase through a strike or ignore a projectile at a specific moment. I love when a game does this because it gives you risk and reward options beyond the obvious. It's not just choosing between hitting or dodging, it's choosing how to hit to also protect yourself. And the detail about the perfect dodge, giving extra invulnerability and opening a punish window is the kind of system that rewards those who pay attention to the enemy's rhythm. When you hit a perfect dodge, you didn't just avoid damage, you gained free time to respond. And that's gold against annoying enemies or bosses with repetitive patterns. To me, looking at the moveset with this eye for what has a hidden property here is practically studying the character's manual and then going into the stage just to prove you understood it. The Unfly technique with a dive kick on a flying character is exactly the kind of thing that separates those who just hover beautifully from those who truly control the air. Storm and Silver Surfer are already strong because they have aerial mobility, but when you learn to exit flight, aggressively slide, plus jump, plus attack, you turn flight into an entry tool, not just a repositioning tool. What I find coolest is the speed of the Unfly. It's not that slow, telegraphed descent that invites the enemy to hit you. You vanish from the air and reappear on top of the target with an attack that shifts angle and timing. In stages full of projectiles and enemies trying to zone you, this is almost a natural response. You fly over the problem and land exactly where it hurts. With Storm, canceling the flight mid-dash to link a full-screen charged attack is pure evil once you get the timing down. It feels like you're playing a different game, because you toggle between mobility and instant threat. The enemy sees you flying, thinks you're just gonna float, and suddenly a charged attack comes tearing through the screen. I really like this for punishing enemies that get too comfortable on the other side, thinking they're safe. Another application I use a lot is at the end of juggles, specifically to avoid hit decay and not let the combo die of old age. Instead of insisting on staying in the air until the game scales everything down, you end with a fast descent that repositions you and still lands that last hit with purpose. It gives the feeling of a planned combo with a beginning, middle, and end instead of just hitting buttons until they stop working. Overall, I see this Unfly dive kick as a rhythm button. It speeds up combat when you want it to and also gives you a way to get back to the ground without losing your advantage. If you enjoy Storm or Surfer, it's worth practicing this until it becomes a reflex, because afterward, you start seeing windows in the air that didn't even exist before. Block canceling is, for me, one of the most broken things because it directly messes with the basic rule of the game, recovery. When you cancel that slow ender with a block, it's as if you're cutting out the dead frames of the animation and getting back to playing instantly. In practice, your combo becomes tighter, safer, and with a DPS that feels unfair. The reason this is so strong is that usually the game charges you for choosing heavy hits or long finishers. You hit hard, but you're left exposed. With the block cancel, you get the best of both worlds. You keep the damage of the hit and erase the part where you'd be vulnerable. I started using this and immediately felt that my combos became less about spectacle and more about efficiency. With She-Hulk, this becomes a way to turn a long combo into a steamroller. She already has impact and presence, but sometimes you feel that certain hits hold you in place for too long, as if the game is asking you to take a breather. When you land a block cancel with the right timing, she becomes a machine. Hit, cut, recovery, reposition, and keep pressing as if there were no pause. And the detail that it works as a punish after a parry is the final touch, because then you enter "I'm going to make you pay dearly" mode. You parry, link your strongest move, and use the block cancel to keep the punishment from ending early. The transition to a running lariat in this context is beautiful because it looks like a natural sequence of aggression. You defend perfectly, flip the switch, and run them over. What I recommend is practicing this slowly so it doesn't just become button mashing and lead to missing blocks at the wrong time. Once you master the timing, the block cancel isn't just about damage, it's about controlling the rhythm of the combat. And honestly, once you get used to it, it's hard to go back to playing normal because everything feels way too slow without that recovery cut. The She-Hulk throw chain is the kind of sequence that makes me pick her just to feel the weight of the kit. Attack X, 2 is greater than grab, is greater than ground bash. And the detail here of it being the bash, not the kick, is crucial. Already puts the enemy on the right track. And when you link dash is greater than air grab, it feels like you're pulling the opponent across the screen as if they don't have the right to fall. The coolest part is that it's not an automatic sequence. The timing is quite demanding, so when you land it, you feel like it was skill, not luck. I like this type of combo because it has rhythm 2 hits to confirm, a grab to lock them down, a slam to maintain height, position, and the dash to stick to them again. And since it's a grab, a lot of things that would mess up a normal combo simply stop existing. When you start mixing assists into it, things get borderline dishonest. Calling an assist like Black Panther to hold the enemy in the air or cover the gap between one grab and another is what makes the chain really click. You're not just extending the combo for hits, you're using the assist as glue to ensure the enemy stays available for the next air grab. And then comes the part I think is most underrated, the pile driver, elbow drop with massive iframes. This changes how you choose to finish. Because it's not just damage, it's a finisher that cuts through the chaos, ignores trade attempts, and still hits a larger area than it looks like at first glance. In a mob fight, I sometimes use it as a clear button, because it catches enemies I wasn't even aiming at. This She-Hulk throw chain, to me, is the definition of playing with presence. You're not competing for space, you're imposing it. If you nail the timing and learn when to call assists, it becomes a sequence that doesn't just melt health bars, but also breaks the enemy's rhythm and makes the fight look like a highlight reel the whole time. Buffering a charged attack during the animation of another move is one of those techniques that, when it clicks, makes you feel like you're one step ahead of the game. Instead of waiting for a move to finish before thinking about the next one, you already have the charge queued up while the action is still happening on screen. The result is a much more aggressive flow because you swap that micro vacuum between actions for continuous pressure. With Phoenix, the dash is greater than radial charge example is especially satisfying because it combines 2 things I love, mobility and safety. You go in with the dash, prepare the charge, and because of the iframes, you practically turn an offensive movement into a dodge against beams. It's very satisfying when a boss or enemy fires to catch you, and you phase through the beam. Appearing on the other side already attacking, it looks like a perfect read, even when it's just well-trained technique. Storm has a different flavor with this dodge cancel into a power attack moving in the same direction, because then you aren't just avoiding, you're stitching the distance together. You dodge and immediately link the follow-up up close, without needing to restart your approach from scratch. This makes her gameplay feel like a dance. You vanish from danger and reappear glued to them, ready to continue the combo or keep the enemy locked into your rhythm. And when you add Silver Surfer's beam assist into the equation, the screen becomes yours. This assist is that background that forces the enemy to respect lines and timing. While the beam is active, you buffer, cancel, reposition, and the opponent has to decide between eating chip damage, taking a hit, or retreating. I like it because it's not just extra damage, it creates a ruler of space that gives you the freedom to execute these techniques without being interrupted. For me, the great value of buffering is consistency. You don't depend on miraculous reflexes all the time because the input is already prepared and you just confirm it at the right moment. Phoenix and Storm feel much more advanced in your hands when you play like this, and Surfer as an assist becomes the kind of support that makes any plan look easier. If you practice this until it becomes automatic, your combat gains that high-level look, even in chaotic situations. The dual ultimate, for me, is that enough is enough button that Marvel Cosmic Invasion gives you, but in the most stylish way possible. Holding L1 plus R1 and seeing both heroes enter at the same time shifts the energy of the fight instantly, because it's not just more damage, it's screen presence, space coverage, and that audiovisual impact that makes you feel like you've turned the tide. And the long iframes make it clear that it was designed to be used as a comeback mechanic, not just a finisher. My favorite way to use it is as a response to chaotic moments. Screen full of enemies, boss calling ads, projectiles coming from different angles, you know, that mess that makes you take hits without even knowing why. The dual ultimate becomes a stabilization button because the invulnerability gives you time to breathe and reposition while the game is still running. Over you. When you nail that timing, it feels like you stole the fight's turn, and there's a strategic side I really like, picking your duo based on coverage. There are combinations that clear horizontally, others that hit high, others that hold enemies in place, so when you sync that with a broken overshield or a punish window, the damage becomes absurd. I always try to save the dual ultimate for the moment it will convert into health bars disappearing, not just pretty hits. Now, the part about resetting levels in the options menu to test new builds without losing unlocks is almost a disguised lab mode. This is gold for people who like to experiment. You don't get stuck in one progression just because you already invested time in it, and you can test route variations, synergies, and upgrade priorities with total freedom. To me, this extends the life of the game because every reset becomes an excuse to put together a different plan. And in arcade mode with cosmic matrix modifiers, like infinite lives, this combination is perfect for playing around without stress. You enter a real training mode, test dual ultimates in risky situations, measure which builds scale better, and even learn iframe timings in practice. It's the kind of feature that turns the game into a sandbox when you want it to be, and a serious challenge when you decide to stop helping yourself.